Welcome to another spring edition of the Bobcast. This week we start with the baseball team and head coach Guy Robertson, Frostburg State Baseball. Another 2-0 weekend, a doubleheader sweep of Eastern. Bobcats winners 10-9 and 5-3. Frostburg State now 9-0 on this young season. Coach, fourth weekend of Frostburg Baseball. What did you like? What did you dislike from your team from this Eastern doubleheader?
Well, I like that we won 2 games. Guess that's why you play, right?
Sure.
Just to go out and try to win them. Our guys, we've swung the bats really well. We've been opportunistic. We've had some really good at-bats, even when they haven't ended up in hits or runs scored, etc. You've seen some guys that are now battle-tested, and I feel like I've used that term the last couple weeks. But our hitters are getting prepared, which is nice. At the same time, that's what they should be, because that's kind of typically what we get to do the most around here this time of year is hit. So,
Yep.
Seeing some things out of the lineup getting extended. Even Nick Furman was out this weekend, and saw some good things from guys plugging in for him. So it was nice to see our lineup kind of get a little bit extended and get some other guys some opportunities and some at-bats going into the upcoming conference opener. And feeling like that we have some options and can do some different things and plug and play some guys if we need to. So that's really what this time of year should be about. Obviously, all within trying to find ways to win ball games. And we found a couple different ways to win at a couple different guys. We were down again, and some things of our own doings. We made several unexcusable mistakes defensively, where allowed them to get back in the game, and then allowed them to take the lead in the game. And I guess in the end, we had some really good at-bats out of Brett Fogle and Jared Mouton with the bases loaded and 2 outs. And I guess the worst part about it is that we had first and third, nobody out, with probably arguably our 2 most consistent hitters coming up, and both those guys strike out. And we end up with second and third, 2 outs, and they walk Jason Paredes to get to Fogle. Fogle walks, and that's the tying run, and then Mouton walks, and that's the winning run, and the game's over. Good and bad. I guess those 2 guys stepped up and got done what we needed to get done in that situation. But we could have done some things earlier that would have prevented us from having to be in such a tight spot in the last inning. But glad we were able to come through and get the W there, because it was a game that we didn't honestly deserve to win. We make that many mistakes defensively on what are very routine plays that we work on all the time. And really inexcusable. So I guess you asked me what was the good. The good was we won and found a way to win. The bad is that we did everything in our power to try and lose the game. And the worst part about it is it's been a real emphasis on what we try to do here in the preseason. Or preseason and into the season is sure up our infield defense. We've worked really hard at making sure our outfielders understand, what they're supposed to be doing and whatnot. And they failed us a couple times too. Now that's a little bit harder because you can't really go outside and work on it. We can do some things defensively, infield-wise, inside. The outfield's a little bit more difficult without being outside. But regardless, there's still very basic plays that guys have been doing their entire lives, and the expectation is that they're going to be able to come through for us in those situations, regardless of how much we've worked on it or not, because they should be able to handle it. So hopefully moving forward, we'll work on some things here this week, and we'll get better. And, try to move forward into this weekend with an opportunity to get back out on the field on Wednesday. So excited about that. But one other thing that I did want to touch on, just, the highs and the lows of this weekend. We got a really, really well-pitched ball game out of Colby Lee in the second game. Really put us in a position to win handily. Didn't work out that way. But Travis Brashear came in that last inning and really bailed us out with some gutty pitches. The last one being a 3-2 breaking ball with the bases loaded and 2 outs to strike out the last guy. So really proud of him, and to see him get back out there for the first time this year in that type of situation and how he handled himself was really nice to see moving forward. Again, it's just one of those things where you feel like, okay, guy that just got battle tested right out of the chute, so maybe gives you some confidence and him some confidence in what positions you can put him in moving forward. So both of those guys did an outstanding job in that second game. And really set us up, obviously, to get the sweep. Colby did. And again, we did some things offensively in the second game that were nice. Those 7 inning games are tough because you have less opportunities, it seems like, and um, but to win 5-1 would have been nice. I'm glad we won 5-3, but I'm not happy with how we ended up in that last inning, the top of the seventh, in the situation that we had to find our way out of in order to win. So a lot of goods, a lot of bads. To be honest with you, if I'm looking at the last 2 weekends, there was too many innings in there where we just didn't play very good baseball. Not fundamentally sound baseball. We're not making routine plays that are putting our pitchers in situations that they have to throw more pitches and pitch out of the stretch and all those types of things. So we got some blips in there in these double headers that we need to clean up. We need to make sure that our attention to detail is there for 18 innings, and that we're capable and focused on doing what we need to be doing, whether it's offensive, defense, or whatever, in order to handle our business and put ourselves in better spots. Had we been playing some guys that maybe had been outside for 15 or 20 games, or more battle tested, or quite frankly just better, we probably find ourselves in the loss column in a couple of those games instead of win if we're further on down the line, or those other teams are further down the line, like CNU and Salisbury are going to be. So we got to clean up some things this week, and put ourselves in a little bit better position in order to be able to take care of business for 18 full innings at what I think is our potential.
Last 3 weekends, Frostburg, as you've alluded to, has played games that have required the Bobcats to find ways to win late in games. You outlined the Eastern game, that last inning. Has your team's confidence grown in those situations into something that, hey, this is what we do? You mentioned that it wasn't necessarily the guys you expected to come through in that moment. They didn't, but the team still was able to pick them up. Each team for Frostburg baseball is its own entity. Can you feel this team saying, hey, this is something we do? There are some lulls here where the fundamentally sound baseball might not necessarily be there, but we'll find ways to win.
Well, I think that is important, no doubt about it. If you have that belief that regardless of what the circumstances may be or the situation that you find yourself in during that ball game, that there's a belief throughout your entire roster that you're going to find a way to come up with a victory, certainly that gives you confidence. And we have every time so far, so there's no reason to think we can't continue to do that. So yes, I'm happy that we've been able to find those things, whatever that formula is in that particular game, in order to pull it out or come from behind or extend a lead. Maybe you're up by a run and maybe you tackle on a couple things here or there. Whatever the circumstances may be, having that belief in yourself and in the rest of your teammates is very important. Throughout the course of what's going to be, when you play 2 9-inning games in a CAC game, you're going to have some ups and downs. You got to be able to make sure that you maintain some stability and belief in one another. The other thing that you mentioned is that some of those contributions have come from some people that maybe haven't done it in the past or weren't asked to do it the last time we went through it. Maybe it was just a week earlier or whatnot, that you're getting it from some different people. So, yes, I think that's important as well, is that many guys have been able to contribute in those tight ball games where, the intensity levels up and the stress levels are up and guys are able to find a way to get it done, where on the flip side, the other guy hasn't. And to that point, we've also had some of those pitching performances in those type situations as well that have given us a chance to come back. I mean, Chris Roosevelt comes in and strikes out 6 and 2 1/3, and he looked like a man among boys and was able to keep us in that ball game where, if they're up 9-7 and they extend the lead and it's out of, we can't get there in the 9th inning, but we were able to get there. Travis comes in and gets us out of a bind, in the 7th inning of the second game. So we've had some guys be able to do some things for us out of the bullpen that have really given us the opportunity to come back. I use the term keeping us engaged. If you're down early or down late, you're still engaged enough where you have the ability to come back because it's only a run or two, where if you're 4, 5, 6 runs, I mean, that's almost mathematically impossible to be able to pull that off with only 3 outs left. And it would take a huge effort to be able to do that, just because baseball is, you're going to hit balls at people, or, an umpire is going to call strike 3 on you, on a bad call, and that's going to take away one of your outs that you have to work with. So when you're only down by a run and you're in a tie ball game, as the case was against RIT, or down 2 runs in the first game against Eastern, you give yourself a chance, and you're within striking distance. So that's really the important piece, is that if you give yourself a chance to win, and guys be able to step up in those circumstances, and then when you have the chance to win, you got to close the door, and that's what Travis did. And we've had that again from some other guys over the weeks as well. On the back end, Franco did it for us early against Wesley. We had some really good performances. Franco did it essentially for us last week against RIT, where he pitches in a tie ball game, or he comes in. I think we were down by a run, and then he pitches in the tie ball game and just keeps them right at bay, and then we end up winning. So we've had some other guys do some really good things for us out of the bullpen, where just giving us a chance to win those games late. So, and then guys offensively getting it done.
On the flip side of that, the last time we had a conversation, we spoke about mistakes, and you were talking about some things that don't necessarily show up on the box score. Obviously, 7 errors in the first game showed up on the box score. How did your team kind of regroup after that performance, and was there an improvement in Game 2?
Well, I think no question about it. And Jesse Hodge, who's been our most consistent defensive player, came out of that ball game in the second inning, I think, with back spasms, and we were able to plug. We moved Jared over to shortstop, and we put Devin back in the game at second base. And when we played flawless, I think we did make one mistake. Of course, the first ground ball after we made it, the first one was hit to Devin. The second was hit to Mouton. Devin made his play. Jared bobbled the ball, and we weren't able to come up with a pick at first base. Ended up being an extra base runner, which didn't cost us because Colby ended up getting out of it for us anyways. But otherwise, we played relatively flawlessly in the infield in that second game, which was nice. But again, you see a guy who's punching out more batters, less balls are put in play. That makes it a little bit easier to play defense. They kind of compensate for one another, which is nice. But there were still some situations that we missed cutoff men. We didn't throw a ball to the right base with the outfielders. All those things, again, are stuff that don't show up in a box score, but we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're allowing a base runner an extra 90 feet on the backside that puts a guy in scoring position that you don't want there. Sometimes, in some cases, the double play is then not in order where you got a chance to get out of an inning if it's still first and third versus second and third. If you didn't throw the ball to the right place or the right base. Those are things that we still got to get better at. They did occur still this weekend, and those are things that we'll continue to harp on and we'll continue to work on. And again, as we get further down the line here, some of these other teams that we're going to face are going to be able to take advantage of some of these mistakes that maybe some of these teams that are more fresh out of the gym or first few games haven't been able to. So while I'm grateful for the opportunity for us to make some of those mistakes and still be able to find a positive result is nice, we've got to be able to cut down on those mistakes moving forward.
And with that, let's pivot forward. This weekend is the opening of conference play. Obviously, there's a midweek game at Gallaudet this week, but the big one, your first conversation with Fielder this season, you mentioned last year against the top teams in the conference. To be a top team in the conference, you have to beat the other top teams in the conference. Seeing you three games, all of them are 9 innings, correct? 27 innings of baseball. How have those first 4 weekends prepared this team for this coming weekend?
That's a really tough question. The fact that we've been able to be outside and be able to play good baseball and prove to ourselves that we have played good baseball and over the last couple of weeks done it against better teams is a huge plus. And when I say better teams, we've faced guys that have been able to manipulate the baseball from a pitching standpoint over the last couple of weeks better than the first couple of weeks. So it hasn't just been these offensive explosions, where only guys can throw fastballs for strikes and it's coming every time. Where the last couple of weekends have been a little bit different. We've been able to do some different things and play some small ball situations and being able to manufacture some runs and being able to find our way out of tight spots and over score in spots that we've had to. So we've done it against more capable people. On the flip side of that, 27 innings of baseball against a really, really, really good club is going to be more than we've been asked to do so far this season. But that's expected. There should be some sort of build-up in your season. In some cases, the weather that we've faced has forced us to play these 7-inning doubleheaders when that hasn't been what's been originally scheduled. So we've been faced with, we've had to manipulate things in order to get the games in. Instead of playing, 9 innings, whatever it's been, and whatever it's supposed to be originally scheduled, that was the plan to help us prepare to play these 9-inning games in CAC play. That being said, regardless of the amount of innings that we've had to play or been forced to play, shortened games or what have you, that doesn't mean that the circumstances have been easy. You still had to get on the bus and go on the road, and you've been battle tested on the road, regardless if it says it's neutral site or not. You haven't played in your own field, slept in your own bed prior to games, any of that stuff. All your meals are on the road, all that stuff. So all that stuff is important as well. That's all we're going to be asked to do is the same thing we've been doing. Yes, baseball is going to be played for longer periods of time, and yes, we need to focus for longer periods of time. But getting on the bus, going on the road, staying in a hotel, all those types of things, being prepared is no different than what we've been doing for the last 4 weeks. Will this be the most formidable opponent that we've played in the last 4 weeks? No doubt about it. But this is why you play, right? This is what you're working towards. And to go out and play arguably the best team in the conference from last year, who this year they look like the best team in the conference. If you see them, what they've done here in the preseason and some of the teams that they've beaten already, to have to do that right out of the chute, that's a lot. There's no question. And we're going to run the gamut here the first 2 weekends on the road. Hey, listen, don't think that it's not on my mind that the CAC said, here, take this on your way out the door. Go play CNU in Salisbury on the road for the first time that we've ever had to do that in the same season. We've always had one at home and one on the road. So don't think that ain't on my mind a little bit, and that should provide a little bit of extra motivation for the guys on our ball club. So we'll be ready. I'm looking forward to it. I love going down there to play. It's a beautiful place to go play against a really good ball club, and to ask ourselves, who are we right out of the conference chute. Is going to be tough, but I'm excited about the opportunity, and we'll go about it this week just like we go about it every other week, try to prepare our guys to go out and play their best baseball, and we'll try to ask a little bit more of them over the next couple days, and we'll be ready to play come Saturday.
2 more questions for you. First one here, from a pitching standpoint, filling those 27 innings, it's a lot on paper to go and get your staff to do that and understand that this is normal for us. This is the way that it is this year. What's that process going to be like, fitting those 3 games in, and how deep will you have to go 27 innings?
We'll have to go deep, but we're also going to have to rely on my experience here managing the pitching staff of doing this stuff over the years. This isn't the first time that we've played 3 games in a conference series. Yes, back in the day there were 2 7-inning games and then a 9-inning game that we were playing on the weekends. But we managed these 9-inning games here plenty of times, the doubleheaders. It's also not the first time that we've had a doubleheader on a Saturday and a single on a Sunday, whether it's conference or non-conference. We've still had that time frame there. So it's not. This isn't foreign to me. It may be foreign to some of our guys. So
yeah.
I'm going to honestly be relying on my experience a lot on how we're going to handle these things. I kind of have a blueprint in my mind about how we're going to go about it. And we'll work our way through it. It's just a matter of, we're going to ask guys, we're going to see what we can do, and ask guys to go out and take care of business for 1 inning at a time. Go out and handle your business for 1 inning. If we send you back out there for a 2nd inning, go handle it in the 2nd inning. And what we're going to try to do is, or what I got to try to do is make sure that we put guys in situations here, especially early, that they're capable of succeeding in, and giving some of these guys smaller chunks to eat up for us until we kind of can expand guys' roles. And we haven't had the innings to go around, and that's another problem with some of these shortened games and these weekends where we didn't get the 3 games, and we only played 2 7-inning games, and we were supposed to play 3 9-inning games. So it is what it is. So there'll be a little bit of feeling out here this weekend. Look, this weekend's going to be tough. It's going to be fun. But that's still what this is. It's the first 3 games of the conference slate. We got to figure some things out and try to put guys in roles, and then things will develop from there. And we want to just put guys in positions to be successful this weekend and handle the spots, and then we can grow and build from there. But it'll be exciting.
Finally, you alluded to this. CNU's been ranked top 10 in the country. This is really the first chance this team has had to play against a highly touted opponent. Is that something that excites this group of guys?
It should. Anytime you get a chance to go play arguably one of the best teams in the country, you should be excited about that. Regardless of what you think you are or who you are or whatever, you want to go play the best teams. We haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. just the way the schedule's fallen, and the way we pieced this thing together and manipulated it around because of what we've had to do is taking some of maybe what would have been our better opponents off our schedule. That doesn't mean that we're not capable of playing with these guys because it's 100%, that we can. So, guys they gotta understand that, yeah, they're ranked whatever they're ranked and whatever, and we played them before and we beat them before and they beat us before. It's not so much where you got to go and you got to just go in with this super hyped up attitude or mindset. No, you got to go in here and be ready to play 27 innings of really quality baseball, regardless of who that's against. All of that hypotheticals and hyperbole and all that hype that's out there for people, that's all for you and for the D3 people and all that to build things up or however they want to spin it or whatever. It's still 27 innings of high-quality baseball that you got to go play, and we got to try to find a way to win ball games.
Well, we're excited for it. The Bobcats are on the road on Wednesday at Gallaudet, and then open conference play with 3 games at Christopher Newport. Coach Guy Robertson, thank you for joining me once again on the Bobcast.
Andy, one more quick thing.
Yeah.
March 11th is a very exciting day in the Bobcat family. It's assistant coach Brett Miller's birthday, so happy birthday to Coach Miller today.
Happy birthday to him. He's the one who puts it up every week. So happy birthday, Brett. Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Next on the Bobcast, we have softball with Bobcat head coach Bill Vasko. The Frostburg State softball team, a 2-0 weekend, defeating Rhode Island and Gallaudet on Saturday. And, Coach, this is the 3rd weekend of softball for this 2019 team. How important was it to collect these 2 wins, considering it being a young team, changes you're making in the program, just getting that validation of the work that your team's putting in?
It was really good. Especially with the weather conditions all over the East Coast, to be able to still have the opportunity to go out and play this weekend. We really appreciate Gallaudet being able to host us to play not only them, but pick up a game with Rhode Island College. So it was really great. I felt like we had a really good week of practice last week, continued to improve upon some things, again, despite not really getting outside. But it was good to get out there, capitalize on what we had been working on, and continue to improve and move forward and get 2 wins and come back and now get ready for our spring break trip.
Against Rhode Island, Frostburg State set season highs with 17 hits and 5 doubles on that day. Frostburg State also season highs, 10 walks, 9 stolen bases against Gallaudet. But I want to focus on Rhode Island. Is it fair to say that the Rhode Island game is the best hitting performance that your team has gotten all year, and really what contributed to that?
It definitely was our best outing hitting-wise. We were aggressive at the plate. We're making better decisions in terms of the pitch selection, that we're getting good pitches, attacking our pitches that we want to see early in the count. Throughout the lineup, we continued to kind of pass the bat along and continue to hit throughout the lineup. So there wasn't really any gaps. It was good momentum. And, our philosophy is to win every inning, and we did a really great job of that. We scored 3 runs in each of the first 3 innings. The thing that I talked to the team a little bit about that we want to continue to improve upon is we've gotten out to really hot starts in a lot of our games so far this year, and then we kind of put it in cruise control and we allow the other team to get back into it a little bit. And that happened as well against Rhode Island, where they started to make a little bit of a comeback, but we were able to pick it back up and finish the game and close it out a little bit early to get the run rule. So that was really nice to see that from our team.
You took the next question right from me. It was going to be, with a young team, how important is it for you to score first and play from in front? And it seems, as you've mentioned, that there's a little bit of complacency. Well, how do you kind of combat that as a head coach and get that sense of urgency to your players, even when you have the lead?
I think it's important that we go out and approach every inning and every pitch as if the score is 0-0. So, I think just we look and see that, we have a lead and we can kind of cruise from there. We're not in a position to do that because we have a young team, and, I feel like our hitting and base running are our strengths, where, our pitching and our defense, have struggled at times this year. We can't afford to go out and take our foot off of the gas pedal on offense when we know that other teams may be putting the ball in play a lot, and, if they're going to score some runs, we got to continue to do that. So, I think, again, we go out and approach every pitch just one pitch at a time, and, continue to work to get as many base runners as possible and then pick them up. And I don't care what the scoreboard says. We're going to go out and try to score as many runs as we can as early as often, and then continue that throughout the game.
Well, touching on what you said, were the weaknesses, at least early on, fielding and pitching. 3rd weekend of softball, third chance to really get outside and play some games. I know there are challenges that come with practicing inside for the first month, 2 months of the season. Were you able to see progress in those categories this third weekend?
Yeah, I thought our defense was a little bit better. It's not only just the fielding part, but, big thing for us right now is getting reads off of the bat, both infield and outfield. We just haven't seen a lot of live hitting where it's not in a cage scenario. So to be out on defense and get those reads to get good jumps on balls. So it's not always, making fielding or throwing errors. It's getting jumps on balls that we can make plays on that maybe we're not doing right now. That'll continue to improve as we get more experience, but that's why it's so important to be able to get out on a field and practice right now, is to kind of simulate, that live hitting on a field and getting those reads. So, yeah, we've seen improvement, but we need to continue to, defensively work on the throwing, the fielding, and those kind of reads and things. And, defensive situational kind of stuff is difficult inside sometimes as well. And with being down one pitcher, with Allie still out with the broken thumb, we can't always practice live situations with our pitchers because they're going to be throwing a lot of innings in real game situations. So there's just a lot of things that we need to work on, and we'll continue to figure out creative ways to do that inside or out on the turf, whatever we can do. The nice thing heading into our Myrtle Beach trip here is we have a day of practice scheduled on Saturday to get outside, and hopefully the weather will cooperate. We can get on some dirt and go through some of those things that we need to work on.
Yeah, it's hard to simulate some of those aspects in the gymnasium, as you know. It's been a long time for baseball, softball in the gym. Frostburg doesn't play again until Sunday, as you alluded to. The Bobcats begin their spring break trip where they'll play 8 games next Sunday through Thursday. You mentioned it was a good week of practice inside this past week. What made it such a good week of practice, and can you repeat it? Can your team repeat it this week as well?
I think, we were able to do a good job of identifying some of the things that we had been struggling on and figure out ways to work on those and get better at them. So I think this week as well will be really important. We're hoping today that we can sit down and watch some of the video from this past weekend and kind of show the kids a little bit some of the things that we can do a little bit better, just so that when we're telling them, not only are they hearing it, but now they're also seeing what it looks like, what they're actually doing. So I think, we'll have 4 days this week to do some video stuff. We'll be able to scout our opponents a little bit, which is, I felt like, helped us this past weekend. We were able to watch some of our both teams, actually. We were able to scout a little bit on video, and I think we'll be able to do that heading into next week. So, not only evaluating what we did this past weekend and then evaluating what our opponents are going to look like, but then taking those things that we need to work on from our games and what we're going to see and working on them in practice really helps give us a better plan on how to approach those games.
8 games next week, a chance to play a whole lot of softball, a chance to be outside. What are you looking from your team in terms of its growth and progression during this next week, the spring break week?
One of the nice things is we'll be able to develop a little bit of momentum and continuity since we play a lot of games in a short period of time. So, again, we're just going to take the first game first and work to go out and play better in that game than what we have so far this year and improve on the little things, pay attention to the details, and, again, take it pitch by pitch and just worry about that game one on day one and kind of go from there. So, I keep telling the team we want to continue to improve throughout the season. So I think, going on spring break and playing a lot of games is we want to be better at the end of the trip than we were at the beginning of the trip. But again, the focus is on the first game first.
Well, we're excited for it. Softball coming off a 2-0 weekend. They're heading off to spring break week next week. We're fired up. Bill Vasko, thank you for joining me on the Bobcast.
Thank you.
Next on the Bobcast, we have women's lacrosse with head coach Hayley Whear. One game this past week. Bobcats fell at McDaniel 19-4, and I was kind of surprised to see a final score like Saturday's, considering how even the draw control ended up being. Frostburg led in terms of draw control after the first half. What made life difficult for your team in terms of the run of play, especially offensively? I see even draw controls, but then 11 shots to 22 turnovers. What did you see on the offensive end?
Not a whole lot. Unfortunately, it was a little frustrating that I think on the draw, McDaniel had one of their strongest players. And so for us to continually kind of be even with them and win a lot of those and get the ball on our attacking end, it was frustrating that we couldn't just put the ball away. 11 shots in a game is unacceptable. That's horrible, and we're better than that. You ideally want to shoot between 30 and 40 shots a game, and we keep telling them that, and we work on that in practice. And so the fact that we weren't shooting at all just kind of came off to us that we were scared and that we went in kind of losing, and that's not our attitude, and that's not how we want to be portrayed. So I think we have a lot of work to do to continue to get that shot percentage up.
Well, offensively, you mentioned being a little bit timid. We've talked in our last conversation about a lot of new pieces and a lot of pieces that are not going to be but are in bigger roles this season. How is it that they can become more comfortable, because there's no one coming to save the day this year? This is the team. How can they really settle in and understand their role and what they need to accomplish?
I think it starts with self-assessing and being able to hold themselves accountable. For example, we have freshman Shelby Burnett, who is a little timid on attack and is very open about it. And at practice the past couple days, we've been holding her that she has to take 10 shots at practice. And if she doesn't take them, then at the end of practice, she has to shoot a certain amount of balls in front of everyone to kind of get that fear out of her head. And so the past couple days, we've been doing that. So when we went to the game on Saturday, we had talked before the game and said the same thing: Shelby, we need you to take 5 shots. So she goes out and she scored her first goal ever. And that feeling was just so exciting and rewarding. And that's why we're here. It was just, that's a little goal that she set. And to be able to do that, even in that loss, like that made that game so much more special, because that was something that she really has been working on herself. And I think if everyone on attack kind of put that little mindset in of, I really am important and I have a bigger role and I do have to step up, I think that our attack would be a lot different. To switch from that, for Shenandoah this week, we have made each of them set a little personal goal for themselves, and we'll hold them very accountable if they do not attain it.
Yeah, a lot of little goals can contribute to a larger goal, and hopefully we'll see that pay off this week. I want to shift to Molly Biggers, a team best 2 goals, team best 5 draw controls. She's leading the team in both categories this year. How has she stepped up this year so far, and what kind of support does she need around her and able to sustain this level of play?
I think that Molly has one of the biggest roles on the team, and I don't think that she gets enough credit for what she's doing so far. She's never taken the draw before, so as a junior, to move her into that role and all of a sudden be a starter taking the draw, that's a huge accomplishment just in itself. Then the fact that she's leading our draw controls, and the fact that she's our leading scorer. Not only is she running midfield the entire game, but then to be our leading scorer, like, that shouldn't happen. I'm very happy that it is, that she is putting in all that extra effort and it's coming on the better end for her. But I think that our attack kind of needs to step up a little bit and realize that our main midfielder should not be our leading scorer as well. She's exhausted when she gets down there, and that should be a time that she can kind of be an accessory player more than our leading scorer. But I do think that she really has stepped up in a ton of ways, and I think she needs a little bit more support around her. At the game on Saturday, the second half after halftime, she was one of 2 people that I thought really did kind of step up and wanted to be there and still wanted to and thought we had a chance and really put in all that effort. I mean, she proved it with another goal. Like, it's one thing to say something, it's another thing to actually put a point on the board.
Who else was the one in your mind that stepped up?
I think it was Shelby. She, again, the same thing, was so scared. Her first half, she had the goal, and then her second half, she drove in and drew the double and assisted to Morgan, and that was huge for her. She's never had an assist either. So the fact that she even drove in for that, I mean, that's 2 points right there.
A few things from Saturday's game that Frostburg can potentially clean up: a couple of penalties, maybe some warranted, some not. And also, the Green Terrors scored twice in the final minute of the first half, end of clock penalties. Are those areas kind of related to fatigue? What do you point to with a couple of those little things that your team can clean up?
I think a little bit goes to fatigue, but more so I think it's just mindset. I mean, to score in the last minute, that comes down that where you have to dig deep, and that comes hard in a defense to say, like, this is our house and we're going to protect it, and there's a minute left and we're not going to let this girl score again. And I just don't think that we have that attitude right now. I think that part of that comes with being young. I think part of it comes with being fatigued on top of being young, not having a whole lot of leadership back there. I think that we still need to evolve as a defensive unit and really own those moments and say, this isn't going to happen and we're not going to let it.
Finally, we've seen this team show up ready to play, put together a complete effort with that Bridgewater game this year. That is a level that we have seen this team achieve. How did Saturday's effort and mindset stack up really compared to what you believe this group is capable of and have seen, especially in that game previously?
I think that's why it's so frustrating, is because we've seen that and we've talked to them about it a lot. the way that we went down, I don't know if it was just a weekday and we were just not thinking a whole lot during the day and we just got on the bus. But from the very moment on the bus, an hour out of Bridgewater, we just knew. Like, we knew going into there, their attitudes were different, their confidence, they just were loud and all just really pumped up on the bus, and that translated onto warm-up, and it translated into the game, and the whole game, even the bench was just in it. And I don't think that we've seen that again, and we talked a lot on Saturday about that. We need to find that feeling again and find that team camaraderie again and be able to pull that together, because it is there, and because we've seen it, that's why we're holding them to that standard. We're not going to drop our standard just because and call that a fluke. It wasn't a fluke. Our team is that good, and we can be that good, and we expect to turn this around.
Finally, this week, Bobcats hosting Shenandoah on Wednesday, on the road at Susquehanna and Selinsgrove on Saturday. What are you looking for out of your team?
I would love to have a 2-0 week off the season, getting ready to go into spring break. I think that would be huge and put us in a better advantage. At the same time, I harp with them all the time. I am not a coach that, yes, I love to win, and yes, I want to see that, but I understand where our team is right now, and my end goal is really I want them to feel proud when they walk off that field. I want them to know that they gave their best, and I want them to know that they are capable of doing this. And so if we can do that and get that feeling in both those games, regardless of what happens, that's my main goal.
Well, we're excited to have women's lacrosse back in Bobcat Stadium on Wednesday. Coach Hayley Whear, thank you for joining us this week on the Bobcast.
Thanks, Andy.
Next on the Bobcast, we have men's lacrosse with head coach Steve Gartelman. Men's lax 2-0 this week with wins over Eastern and SUNY Oneonta. Frostburg moves to 3-1 on the season. This was week 2 for Bobcat lacrosse. The rest of the conference, really, most teams have been playing, 2 or 3 more games than your team. This is still the early stages of the season. What kind of progress did you see your team make from week 1 to week 2, these Eastern and Oneonta games?
I think these 2 games we started to see a lot of what we've been preaching starting to take some shape. The first couple of games, the Lev Val game and the Washington College game, we saw flashes. Obviously not enough to get both of those games. We started slow in the Lev Val, worked back into our identity in the second half. Washington College, we never quite found our mojo, but it's a different scheme. It's a different thing. I think we talked about in the last podcast that it's going to be a process for us to really have that light bulb moment go off. So I think it's starting to take some shape. A lot on the offensive end with the tempo, the early offense we want to run with not really stopping our feet, letting the defense breathe, just being able to go. Kind of having a machine gun mindset to the offense. So I think that's really taking shape, and we're just getting more and more chemistry. So we're seeing those big steps being taken now, and it's definitely a different team this week than it was last week, and hopefully the same thing going forward, a new team in a better way into next week.
Quickly to jump on the offensive train there with the tempo early offense. 8 different players scored for Frostburg against Oneonta, and I'm going through making my sheet for Tuesday's game against Shenandoah, and a whole bunch of guys have 4+ assists in 4 games. Is that the formula that you're looking for this particular team? Lots of options in terms of scoring and distributing with a few guys that have a chance to go off on any given day?
Yeah, absolutely. I think any 6 guys we roll out there are guys that can score in multitude of ways. A few guys maybe have a bit more of a style to them, but all the guys we trust to go out there and play. And our offense is built on sharing the ball, believing that the ball has energy. It's kind of a Golden State Warriors thing, is that the more guys touch the ball, the more the ball spins around, the more energy it gains. But realistically, it's just challenging the defense. So you can look at it on both sides of the coin where the ball gains energy or the defense loses energy. So we try to preach, in and out of our sticks, share the ball as much as possible. There's a little bit of a time limit on how long we want our guys to hold the ball, so they kind of have a mental clock in their head on when to give it up. And some of our spacing is entitled to, draw people and move it for a shot. We want to try to have the assisted goals when possible. So that's definitely, the mindset of what we have. But there's a few guys that, like you said, can blow up any day. Maybe it's Matt Ward, maybe it's Jay Clinton, maybe it's Jake Howarth, maybe it's Paul Roop. So we have a lot of guys out there, and we just let the ball do the work and hopefully make the defense make a few mistakes.
Let's jump into the games this past week. Against Eastern, Frostburg got big performances, as you mentioned. Paul Rupert, a big scoring day from him. Jack Marks in cage, 20 saves, tied for the 4th most in a single game in Bobcat history. What I thought was interesting is against Eastern, Frostburg lost the face-off battle, fewer shots, fewer ground balls, cleared at a lower rate, and still found a way to win. You talk about being multiple. How was that in play against Eastern and your team finding a way to win?
We had to really kind of fabricate a few things there late in the quarter, in the second quarter, late in the fourth quarter, obviously, with how the game finished up. But kind of fabricating some scenarios that worked for us, and we practiced those under 2-minute scenarios, a lot of practice to kind of be calm and comfortable. But realistically, the multiple ways we won that game was Jack Marks. That Eastern game, we got to tip the cap to him. He did more than his share to keep the game within reach for us. And then once we kind of got it clicking, and those late opportunities where we feel comfortable, we really start to see the ball go in the net and the guys play instinctual. But I think it all started with just the confidence in what Jack was doing in the cage to just play free and do what we got to do. And they had a good player, number 13 on their team, the LSM. I think he had like 12 or 13 ground balls. And he was a difference maker in the faceoff unit, which was a good battle, but he was coming up with the ground ball. So we had to find other ways to make it happen, and a lot of it was Jack, and the rest of it was just the team being calm in crunch time.
What goes into your team being calm in crunch time? What was the preparation that allowed your team to execute the way that it did, scoring twice in the final 16 seconds of the first half and twice in the final 90 seconds of the fourth to take the win?
I think a lot of it is building just general lacrosse IQ over the fall, over the preseason, over everything that we do is just, not trying to create plays for openings, creating, lacrosse schemes that let them make decisions, good decisions. So they gotta feel confident in what they do. And when we practice in those moments, we talk about the scenarios. Here's what they got to do. They got 2 poles on the ball. Here's a scenario we paint. We're down by 1. We're a man down. Whatever the situation is, we try to visualize as much as we can, talk about it on film, talk about it on the field, and then run through it. So it becomes muscle memory. And I think just the overall poise and chemistry of our team allowed us to be calm there, because it was actually in the huddle. We're talking about it. We used 1 timeout late in the fourth quarter to save a possession, man down. They doubled us. We used another timeout because we didn't like the setup. We adjusted, and Jake Hoark had a great selfless suggestion. I was like, Jake, you start with the ball. He's like, Coach, that's a strong spot for a lefty. What about Jimmy? I said, brilliant. Let's do it. So we were able to dialogue in a really stressful environment, and I think just the trust in each other is why we're able to stay calm, because we practice it so often. We have muscle memory. We believe in each other, so we're able to just talk, feel calm, and go out and execute.
Jumping from that timeout conversation, I want to go to the Oneonta game. Really one of the biggest exciting moments of this season so far comes out of a timeout from Oneonta, end of the first half, 32 seconds left. It results in a caused turnover by McVeigh, the short stick, races down, sets up Cooper. You get a goal from a long pole. Everyone's excited. The execution in those situations not only happens offensively, but it also happened defensively there. How did that really get your team going, and how was your defense prepared for that moment?
Yeah, it was great because I believe at that time we were down a goal. I think that made it 4. Was that right before the half?
Mm-hmm.
I believe we were down a goal, 4-3. They were up, and they called a timeout to save the possession, try and stretch the lead. We made a sub. We brought Joe Cooper in. We for Joe Lucas, we brought Colson Gregory. Those names get me sometimes. Geez. Colson Gregory went in, so we had Dante, Colson, Joe Coop. So we made some changes out there, and again, the selflessness of this team, where in a timeout the starters are working hard, they're a little tired, so we brought fresh legs in this late game or late timeout situation, and we decided to put pressure on. We put 7, we put Colson on ball, we pressure it, we take away the adjacents, and we just kind of rag them a little bit. As they get into their flow, we have to take the pressure off because it's just not causing a turnover, but it's creating a lot of pressure. And then Taylor just plays really good fundamental defense. The ball hits the ground. Joe Coop comes flying out of nowhere, keeps it dirty. Taylor picks it up, and we get running. But it was the selflessness and the trust that we can make some changes, go do what we want to do. And those fresh legs paid off. We put fresh legs, Joe Coop in there. He ran faster than I've ever seen anyone run full field, and great connection to a tough goal. And with 0.5 on the clock to finish it, the guys, it was a great momentum swing into the second half. And I just, again, love the selflessness of this team to just say, Coach has an idea, let's go with it. Turned out to work, so Joe Coop made me look real good with that change, but just the guys' trust and everything that we're doing, I really love it.
It's great to have that validation that your team that can see. Frostburg, a big 8-0 run to turn that 4-3 deficit into an 11-5 lead. How was your team able to take control of Saturday's game?
We were just doing really well at the face-off X. It's something that did come back. We felt as we were scouting that our guys were matching up well with it, so we ran deep. Sammy, Thorne, and Drew all were getting a lot of reps and doing a great job there. Creating offense with it, winning and getting possessions. So in that second half, we just kind of got our confidence going. I think the first face over the second half, Sam missed 3 ground balls in a row. But after that, we didn't miss any first-time GBs. We were winning ground balls, and that's where we get the make-it-take-it mentality of whatever we shoot is going in, and our guys are going to win the ball in the back end. And if not, Jack and the defense are doing their part. So it became a complete second half, and we're really happy to see all the sides clicking that way.
Matt Ward, a big day, 6 goals, 2 assists. What made him successful on Saturday?
He what really made him successful is his offseason. his winter off season. I think his squat went up somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds. So he put a lot of work in the off season, and it's showing. He has more endurance, more strength on his shot. He's playing with great confidence. He scored one of his goals, sweeping on their long stick, which we thought was a very good player. So he's playing at a high level, super confident, and also just doing. I think we talked about this last time. He's learning from all mistakes, where he's doing things differently. Where he scored from behind the cage, high to high. Comes around this time, he goes low to low, mixing things up while he's still doing our schemes in the right way. He's learning and improving, and he's a very smart, talented kid.
Frostburg, 4 third-quarter penalties, but overall held Oneonta 1 of 5 on man-up chances. Opponents are converting at 15% in their man-up chances against your man-down group. What has made your man-down group solid so far this season, and are you looking to clean up the penalties as well?
Yeah, we have to clean up the penalties. It's something that with our pressure and the guys buying into that, we're trying to find our, I guess the boundaries of where that pressure goes.
Yeah, right up to the line.
Yes, we want to make sure that we're there. We're causing an effect on the defensive end with our pressure, but we got to stay out of the box, and part of that is learning. Each crew is different and officiating what they're looking for. So as we go out, maybe one crew against a team on Tuesday will allow certain things. Saturday they can't. So we have to do a better job of evolving with what the refs are calling, because they have all the discretion in the world to make those calls. They're there to keep us safe. So we got to adjust and learn from those. But really, it's a chemistry-filled group. I think there's only one changing piece from that, and that's Coach Jones, who graduated from that group, who's now on the coaching staff, and him, and honestly, Coach Williams, Coach Alex Williams, who joined us this spring. He takes a lot of pride in the man down. He's really happy with what they're doing. They put a lot of work into scouting, working through. We have a scout unit that does a great job for us, the Bomb Squad. So they come out and do a great job getting the defensive reps. So we put a lot of time into scouting and trying to figure out what we want to do. And Coach Williams and those guys have a great chemistry going on there, teeing off on the right keys and looking really good down there. So hopefully they keep it up, because if we're getting those penalties, we're going to need them to have that kind of percentage.
Sure. Finally, Bobcats started a 4-game homestand with the Oneonta game this week. It's 2 games at home, Shenandoah on Tuesday, Goucher on Saturday. What kind of growth are you looking for out of your team this week?
Still, got to put a 4-quarter game together. I don't think we've had that yet. SUNY Oneonta went on a 3-goal run late in the first quarter where, we made some mistakes that gave them great opportunities. We got to limit the penalties. We got to make sure that we're coming up with GBs on the face-off. Actually, that's when I think we really succeed, is we win the face-off possession, the ball, but we don't come up with possession a lot of times. Not going to say a lot of times, but when we do struggle, that's the case. So really just looking for that tempo to continue. I think the offense, figuring out the tempo and that machine gun mentality, is really taking shape defensively, limiting our penalties, and hopefully getting a few more defensive stops and not Jack Marks having to make the saves. But if that's the case, he's ready for the task. But we'd like to let him catch his breath a little bit. He's doing a lot for us.
Well, Coach, it was fun. We're looking for 2 more home games this week. Men's lacrosse 3-1 on the year. Thank you for joining me this week on the Bobcast.
Thanks for having me.